Let's see now how you would go about installing WordPress onto your server. First of all, there are a couple of things that we need to do before we actually go into the installation of the WordPress. The first thing, of course, is the web server, web host. Now to do that, you'll have to sign up with one of the host companies that will actually host your online site, and there's quite a few out there, and actually just for this purpose I have chosen a free one, so free host provider, and I will use that one for my website. The second thing you will need is, of course, the WordPress the WordPress files, and to do that all you have to do is just search for WordPress download, and they will actually bring you to the page that I'm currently on. So this is the page from where you would actually go and download the latest version, and in this case the latest version is 4.0.1. But before we actually go and hit on download, let's have a look at some of the requirements here that you will have to have in order to run WordPress on your site. So you'll have to have a PHP version of 5.2.4 or greater, and MySQL version 5 or greater. Now MySQL is very important, as we will see just a bit later when we actually create a database. Now to have WordPress on your server, on your site, and to use WordPress to build your blog or your site or whatever it is that you're building, you will need to actually create a database, and this is something that we'll go through in just a moment. Okay, so also here you'll find some features. Now this is all to do with WordPress, and like I've said before, WordPress 4 is not that different from previous versions, as you will not find a lot of visual differences. People at wordpress.org have actually gone a lot into correcting the mistakes that were made in the earlier versions, like bugs and everything else, and once they have actually corrected that, they just actually made a new version, which is WordPress version 4. Okay, and the only things that you will see when it comes to differences between WordPress 4 and WordPress previous versions is that you will see when we start the installation there's gonna be some differences when you actually go into installation. So you will see that you can actually choose the languages and whatnot, but we'll have a look at that a bit more later. Also, you can find here some testimonials, so this is what other people have said about WordPress, and you can find some history, some books, and a few other links here as well. Going into the first link, which is the intro link, you'll find a bit more about wordpress.org, and I guess if you haven't used any of the earlier versions of WordPress, this might be a good idea to go through some of this and actually see what WordPress really is. Alright, let's go back to download WordPress. And the WordPress that I'm going to be downloading, like I've said, is the latest version at this point of time, and that's version 4.0.1. Now WordPress has become really easy to install, and you can see here that with the famous 5-minute installation, setting up WordPress for the first time is very simple. Alright, and that's something that I actually done with WordPress for a lot. The main idea is to actually get any kind of users, whether they've used WordPress or any sort of programming before, to actually build a web page within minutes, and actually to customize it to meet their needs and likes. Alright, so I'll go ahead and I'll just download WordPress now. Okay, while that is downloading, what I'll do is I'll jump to my website host. I've chosen 000webhost.com basically because it's quite easy to set up and it's free, so for this purpose I will use this web host. Alright, there are a couple of things that I'm looking for here. The first one definitely is the MySQL, so your web host provider has to have MySQL installed and some sort of a file manager. Like I've said, we're going to use MySQL to build a database, and we're going to use file manager or some other software which enable the file transfer protocol, so FTP, to actually upload those files onto the server. Alright, so let's go into MySQL, and here I will go ahead and just build a database. Now you can name your database whatever you like, and once again this all depends on what kind of cPanel your provider actually offers you. So I'm just gonna name, for example, my WP before. Alright, I'm gonna use my username as admin, and this might differ sometimes. Sometimes you will actually have to create a database and then add a user to the database. With the 000webhost.com, they actually create the database and straight ahead they create a first user, which you can put to be any sort of user, so any sort of a username. I'll leave it as admin, and then I will just type my MySQL username password. And retype it. Alright, I'll click on create database. Okay, so here's my information about my database, and I will strongly suggest that you highlight all this and you copy it and you open a notepad somewhere and you paste that, and also save that, because you will need this later when you're actually setting up WordPress 4. But I guess this is just a neat way of keeping everything together, and once everything is actually set up, you can go ahead and change your passwords and, you know, maybe write somewhere all this information somewhere else, so you're a bit more secure and safe. But for the purpose of this video, as this is a tutorial, I will keep it as it is, and I'll go back to my control panel. Okay, so like I've said, the next thing would actually be to upload the files which have already been downloaded. So I'm talking about the WordPress 4 files. So once again, let's recap. We have just created a database, we have created a user which is needed to actually get the WordPress running, and what I'll do now is I'll have to upload the files that I have just downloaded. Alright, there's two ways. There's the file manager and there is the file transfer protocol details here. If you're using any software for the FTP like Smart FTP or FileZilla, you'll find all the required information here. Alright, so this is my hostname. I have chosen it to be WordPress 4 tutorials, and it's giving me this extension which is kind of crazy. It's actually camzy.com. okay, so because this is a free provider, there is my username, my password, and a few other things. I can go ahead and change my password as well. But if you're going to use FileZilla or Smart FTP, you will need this information. Okay, I'll go back and actually I'll go into File Manager. Alright, so this is all the files that I currently have on the server under my account, and I will go into public, and what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and upload. However, I can see that it's only, the limit is actually 5 megabytes, so I will not upload files bigger than 5 megabytes. And what I'll have to do is, in this case, I'll go back and I will use the FileZilla to upload all the files. Alright, so let's go back to my cPanel and view all the required information. So this is the information I'm going to need. I'll fire up FileZilla. Alright, and I will use this information here to actually log in. So I'll copy it and paste my host. I'll do exactly the same for the username, and I'll go ahead and I'll type in the password. I'll hit on Quick Connect, and if everything is alright, I should be able to see all the files in my right hand side. And under public, I'll actually go and I will upload my file, and I will simply drag and drop. Now this might take a bit more time because there's about 2,000 files that need to be transferred, but also if you had a better file manager, you can do it straight from here, and I guess it will be a lot easier. Now remember, the file that we have just downloaded is a zip file, so we have to expand that file. And when you are doing something like this, when you're actually uploading from your cPanel, so from some sort of a file manager, make sure that that file manager also has a unzipping capability, which in my case is not true. So even if I uploaded this using my file manager, I wouldn't be able to use it, as I need to actually unzip all of these files. So once again, if I go to public here, WordPress has already started uploading, and once it's all done, we'll actually go inside and see what files are in there. Okay, in the meantime, what I'll do is actually I'll just go and open the page that I'm currently working on, just to see what it looks at the moment. And this is pretty much what it looks at the moment. Now when everything is uploaded, when I type in this address, and I will make sure that my WordPress actually goes into the root of my web page. So when I type in this particular web page here, which is WordPress4tuts.camzy.com, the WordPress installation page will show here, and we'll see how to actually go about installing WordPress. Okay, so I'll go back and check on my files. Alright, when you get something like this, basically this is safe for me to overwrite everything, as I do not have any files that I need on my server, because I'm starting from a blank database and blank everything, and therefore I can just go ahead and overwrite everything. If you already have some files, just make sure you do not delete or overwrite the files that you need. So basically, if you have on your server some files that you have uploaded before, and if the name of the file you're trying to upload now is the same as the previous one, it will actually tell you what you want to override it, and make sure that you do not override those, as you might need those from some other stuff. Alright, so I'll let all of these files upload, and I'll come back when the files have been uploaded.